Hello, this is Shooting Nerd. As may be obvious here, I took a tactical carbine course yesterday, and if you saw the picture on the intro into this, that's basically the weather we had yesterday. It was cold, dreary, it was in the 50s, low to mid 50s, rainy, and just a little bit unpleasant. Nothing horrible, we didn't have downpours, not a lot of wind, so could have been a heck of a lot worse, but just still a cold, wet, dreary day. Overall, had a really good time with it. The folks that were putting it on is called Falcon Security Group. They're based out of Orange County, California, I believe. I'll provide the website at the bottom of here so you can look them up. A bunch of professional guys, ex-military, as well as I believe one of the gentlemen there was with Blackwater as well, so take that as you may. But they're a bunch of good guys to learn from. They took someone like me, a total noob. Granted, yeah, prior to yesterday, I've put about 1,000 rounds through this thing, but never in any kind of a tactical training situation. Never did run and gun. Never had actually shot this firearm prone before, anything else like that. And yesterday we put about 650 rounds downrange. To give you a quick summary of what all we went through. We started off with a 50-yard zero, then moved into 5, I think I remember it was 5 or 7 yards, what they referred to as bad breath range, and had us do some drills. One thing that they highlighted was the fact that you have vertical offset. A 50-yard zero, which I'd already gotten the day before, was dead nuts on. All of a sudden you get into 7 yards or so, and your shots are, funny enough, from optic to barrel, that far off. Theoretically, I know that. I've spent a lot of time actually working with long guns with my bolt-action Remington, but it's something else to actually be in the field and actually see that first up close and all that. So very, very cool. Did a really good job in explaining all that stuff. They also discussed something called the overbore grip. What they discussed was the fact that if in your normal grip where you're holding a rifle like this, or even more so if you've got a vertical grip on here, your elbows act as fulcrum and cause your arms to move in unison, and consequently, 1 causes muzzle flip, and 2 gives a unified type of recoil into your chest. What they suggest is what they call it overbore, either top this way or top this way. And what that does is you still have your one elbow is still going to be flexing this way, but your other elbow will be flexing. I'll get this in the camera. Your left elbow, or your main elbow, will be flexing one way, and your other elbow will be flexing the other way. Makes a huge difference in terms of how much recoil you're felt, and also it tends to mitigate a lot of the recoil so that it just goes straight into your chest instead of pushing you back. That brings up something else. Previously, I would shoot this like I would just a regular long gun, which is put it into the, I don't know what the proper phrase is, but I call it the crotch of the shoulder, which is right where your shoulder joins your chest. That nice little dip there that you can put it in there. And I was getting my butt kicked all over the place by this thing. An AK bucks a little bit in case you haven't shot one. What they had me do is put it a lot closer to the center line of my chest. Basically, but halfway between the nipple and the sternum. They didn't call it out that way, but I'm sitting here trying to come up with a couth way to do it, and well, so you get to hear about it. Anyway, moving it in that way meant I had to shorten the buttstock as far up as it'll go, and I could then hold it that way. Only problem then is it's just very, very, not uncomfortable, but very, very just different than what I'm used to shooting. Yeah, you can get your head down to get through the optic. It's not a problem, but it's just very, very different. And I can tell you, I went from having 5 to 7 inches of muzzle flip on this thing. By the end of it, I was 2, 3, maybe as little as 1. So their tactics on doing that, or the methodology, is really, really helpful. The downside is I wasn't very comfortable with it, and I'd constantly, subconsciously revert to it. One of the other things that I had personal issue with is I will use the safety on this when I'm getting ready to shoot, safety comes off, I'm aiming down range, okay, I'm getting done shooting, muzzle, or the safety goes back on. Mainly because everybody else there was using an AR platform, the M4 type of platform, where you've got your safety is right here to flip with your finger, or pardon me, I should say right here to flip with your finger. Basically, you do not pull the safety off until you have a clear sight picture, and then flip, or you actually just flip, and then you're good to go. Problem is with an AR or an AK, it's a little easier for me shooting right-handed or left-handed because I can just bring my thumb back to actuate it, but still, it's a bit of a challenge. Oh, just a safety check for you. Let's see. Action is clear, and obviously the magazine's empty as well. I would use, kind of a grip like this, and then flip back to actuate, and then back here. I got okay with it, although sometimes getting a little bit overzealous. I got banged by the hammer a couple times, and a number of times I would either forget to flip this, or I would put it halfway, and interesting thing is your trigger doesn't do that. Had a number of times where I thought I had a malfunction. It's just no, I didn't have the safety disengaged. Excuse me. But talking about that brings up another thing. If you're going to do any kind of any kind of tactical shooting or lots of rounds down range, you need gloves. Just an absolute must. My hands are sore here from doing tactical reloads and stuff, and just sore from doing all the trigger pulling, but the gloves made a huge difference on it. Okay, after that, we then went through and did, like I said, just some practicing close range, just to get a handle on getting recoil and aim at that type of range. Then we started doing BSA drills. I don't remember what the acronym stands for. They never mentioned it, and it's been months since I've heard it. But it's basically put as many rounds into a target, close range, as you can within a given time period. I've seen 3 seconds for some tests, and we were doing it at 2 seconds. They started off 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 rounds. Right now, without the level of trigger control I have, and without still not being comfortable with that centerline grip, I'm lucky to get about 6 rounds in 2 seconds. I had some guys that were doing 8, 10, 12. In fact, one of the shooters there, the trainer guys, he was able to get, we saw him get 13, and he and his buddies both say he can get 15, 16 when he's having an on day. So definitely a good training tool. It teaches you good trigger control, or if you're not doing good trigger control, one of the things they mentioned also as a good training aid is just to sit there and play with a clicky pen. Just use that to just learn to feel the brake and the reset on the trigger, so you can just sit there and do it. And also, you don't need to use your whole hand. It shouldn't be grip, 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 or grip, 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 grip. It should be just a nice single movement. If you're shooting for any period of time, you know that. And in theory, especially when I'm doing long shots, trying to do 2, 3, 4, 500-yard shots, you know that. But when you're firing an AR, AK, it's hard to do. I will say that having this grip on here made a big difference for me in being able to do that. One downside with the class, though, I think I put about 650 rounds through this thing. My left hand, my trigger finger, is just beat up. During one last little bit, we actually got to just, rather than unpacking the magazines and just having some fun, we actually just said, clear your mag, so we just all aimed at the hill and just started firing. I ended up having to use my middle finger to be able to pull the trigger. Just my trigger finger had just gone south on me at that point. It was funny and cool, but just definitely an issue for me. I have to get more time on the trigger for that. Other things, I briefly mentioned it, but they taught us how to do tactical reloads and combat reloads. For an AR, they talk about where you make an L shape and you use your trigger pull, and I can't really mimic it too much here, but basically you pop it and then you just bang it in and use an L shape. Whereas for an AK, you grab your mag out of here and then you just do it that way. And consequently, the rib right here, from the ribs on the back here, pressing into the crease of my thumb there, my hand's a little sore from that. A combat reload, it was an interesting trick. One of the things they teach is whenever you're going to do any work to your gun, whether it's just simple, quick reload, especially a tactical reload, what they call disengage the weapon from your body. You pull it off your shoulder, turn it sideways, and bring it into your body so you can work in a nice tight space. For the AR in a combat reload, that works because what you do is instead of just doing a nice slow, you hit the magazine release and flip it, and it'll literally just shoot the magazine right out, and you just bang your other magazine right in there. Very cool to watch. With an AK, I'm sure you've seen it. You just grab in here. You can either do it front, this way, and then just pop and then just shake the rifle, and the magazine will pop out, and then do that. Or you can just do in one motion. You just and it comes out. Now I will say that for as much as I thought about this, or played with the magazines on this thing before, getting the magazine into the magazine, well, actually takes a little bit of work. Okay, enough on that. Next thing. They also had us doing some work from standing, kneeling, prone. As I mentioned before, I've never done prone before. Not too hard, although using this as a pivot point. One of the problems I have is the bill of my hat kept contacting this, and I need to do a lot of work shooting prone. I've never really done it before. I'm not comfortable with it. It should be a nice, easy way to shoot. I need to do more work on it. Then we would do transitions from standing to kneeling, kneeling to standing, standing to prone, standing to, just all the way on up. They were really honest to make sure that we kept rifles perfect, within reason, perfectly straight down range while you're standing up. I actually had a couple times where instead of keeping within, 5 degrees either side, I probably got to 45 degrees. I got kind of yelled at about that. And then one time I had my finger on the trigger when I was standing up. And they're reasonably well aware of the fact that dealing with the safety on this is a pain. So they weren't okay with it, but they realized that the AK safety is just a pain in the butt. So they weren't riding me about the safety, although I was trying to do my damnedest with it. But I got a little bit yelled at for having my finger pulled down onto the trigger when I was standing up. What else? I think maybe I mentioned, I don't remember this. I've done this a couple times. They're very, very strict about when you're carrying your weapon, when you're carrying it, and when you are on target, when you're just kind of searching around, when you don't have a sight picture on a target, your safety is off. As soon as you have a sight picture on the target you want to shoot, then you click safety off. On an AR, obviously, like I said, that's real easy to just pop on and off. With an AK, it takes a bit of work. Thanks to my clicking the safety off and on, I made a number of mistakes where I thought I had a misfeed. It turns out I just didn't have the safety fully engaged. Or I'd would be in the middle of moving my hand up forward, I'd pull the trigger, wouldn't be completely on it, and get trigger bit. Obviously, no injuries on the hands, but just sore hands from all of that. Let's see. Next one is they started teaching us to do shooting left, shooting right while we're facing left or facing right, doing turns as well as 90 degree left, 90 degree right, walking, shooting left, walking, shooting right. And one of the things they refer to is pretend your rifle is a stripper pole. That way, just keep it vertically, and when you're in turning, it helps you sorry about that. It just makes a tighter turn. You can also be closer to somebody else and not have to worry about hitting them or muzzling them. And one other thing they probably didn't think about, but if you think about like a ice skater, it actually does a pretty good job if you keep everything tight and close, you can actually rotate that much faster. One of the last things we covered then was the firing behind cover. They'd have us run up to cover, pop out, and try to engage a target quickly. One of the things that they kept pointing out when we were doing, because their comment was that you don't want to be pressed right up against the cover. You want to be back about a yard and a half. And if there's two ways you can do it. You can just pop out, or you can roll out. And one of the things they mentioned rolling out is you have to worry about that vertical offset. If you roll out, your optic will be clear of your cover, but the barrel might not. So there was actually a couple of bites in the back of the wooden cover that they were using. It's kind of funny. So anyway, overall, a really positive experience. Evidently, one of the guys that was the trainer said I gave him the biggest scare of the day, and I think it was when I was doing a transition from the prone to standing, and I got my finger on the trigger. He never really said what it was, but as long as they'd have me, I'd definitely go again. Although I do feel like a bit of an idiot at times. I might post up a bunch of videos that I took during the day, or several of them. By the end of the day, I was just so tired and we were spending so much time reloading, I didn't actually have time to do all the videos after each section to cover it. But I'll see if I can post them up. But all in all, it was a really good day. I'll post another video after this that describes what we did, how it worked with the rifle, what did work, what didn't work, and I will also discuss the gear I wore, how that worked, how it didn't work. This video is just getting pretty darn long, and I've barely got enough time here. So, at any rate, I will put the link for these guys down at the bottom. Happy trails. Later, guys.